What if the trailer everyone had been waiting for wasn't just a preview of a concert film, but a confession, raw, overwhelming, and unexpectedly emotional? What if the reason Jin wiped his eyes in the final seconds wasn't simply because he was touched, but because he had been holding something back throughout the entire tour, something only now beginning to surface? And why did the audience cheers, louder than anything captured before, hit him with such force that his voice cracked in a way fans had never heard? It began with a single frame, Jin standing alone under a spotlight, the crowd not yet visible, the stage humming with the quiet anticipation of something powerful about to begin. His breathing was steady, but his fingers trembled slightly as he adjusted his in-ear monitors. Then, in an instant, the silence shattered. The audience roared, not just loud, not just enthusiastic, but earth-shaking, a kind of sound that carries emotions so heavy it vibrates in the chest. In the trailer, that moment was captured exactly as it happened. Jin freezing, eyes widening, as if the cheers hit him harder than the lights. What was he thinking in that split second? Was it pride, relief, gratitude? Or was it the memory of all the nights he trained, doubted, pushed himself, hoping one day he could stand on a stage like this again and hear fans screaming his name with the intensity of a world on fire? The trailer then cut to a sequence of scenes, the rehearsals, the backstage chaos, the moments where Jin leaned over with exhaustion pressing on his shoulders, the small smile he forced even when he clearly felt overwhelmed. Each clip felt like a puzzle piece, a hint, a quiet confession. Something about this project wasn't just performance, it was healing. And as the trailer unfolded, ARMY began to realize just how much he had carried into this tour. Then came the line that left the entire fandom shaken. His voice, soft but trembling slightly, whispered over a shot of him looking out at the sea of purple lights. The cheers, they kept me fighting. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't posed. It sounded like something that slipped out of him naturally, something he had been wanting to say, something he could no longer hold inside. Why did those cheers matter so much? Why did they break him open in a way no other moment had? The trailer continued, showing him running across the stage with the energy of someone rediscovering joy, someone who had missed this world more deeply than he ever admitted. The camera caught flashes of moments backstage where he stood with his hands pressed against the wall, studying his breath before walking out again. He wasn't overwhelmed because he was weak. He was overwhelmed because he had waited for this moment longer than anyone realized. And then, the emotional climax. The final shot, Jin lowering his head as the cheers built, rising like a tidal wave. His shoulders shook just once. Then he lifted his hand to his face. The tears weren't dramatic. They were small, sudden, the kind that slip out when the heart can't contain everything anymore. The screen faded to black right at the moment he whispered, barely audible, "Thank you for waiting." That single phrase turned the entire fandom silent. Was this what he had been wanting to say since the beginning of the tour? Was this the message he carried through every rehearsal, every exhausting night, every moment of doubt? The trailer seemed to say more through silence than words, revealing emotions he couldn't fully speak. But what truly sent the fandom into emotional chaos was the realization that those tears didn't come during the saddest moment. They came during the loudest, which means the cheers didn't overwhelm him simply because they were loud. They overwhelmed him because they reminded him of something he almost lost, the feeling of belonging. The world knew Jin as composed, confident, warm, effortlessly charming. But in that trailer, he looked human in a way fans rarely see. Vulnerable, relieved, proud, and deeply, overwhelmingly grateful. Why did the editors choose to include that moment? Why did they let the world see him cry, unfiltered, unmasked? Was it his decision? Was it meant as a message to ARMY? Or was it something he insisted on, something he wanted to immortalize, something he wanted fans to remember long after the tour ends. The emotional storm didn't end there. The reactions poured in instantly. Tweets, posts, edits filled with messages of comfort, pride, and love. Fans around the world wrote about how they felt the sincerity in his voice, how the tears made the trailer feel less like a film and more like a chapter from Jin's diary being read aloud. But beyond the emotional reaction, there was something else lingering underneath, a question that no one could quite silence. Had Jin been carrying something heavy during the tour? And if he had, was this trailer his way of finally letting it go? The clips revealed shadows beneath the glamour. Quiet moments where Jin sat with his eyes closed, breathing deeply, grounding himself, preparing to face the roaring crowd again. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't tired. He was feeling everything at once. The weight of his return, the responsibility, the joy, the pressure, the gratitude so immense it almost hurt. And perhaps that was what made the cinematic cut of the trailer so powerful. It showed a man confronting his own emotions on the biggest stage of his life. Was the movie meant to celebrate him? Or was it meant to reveal him? The fandom couldn't tell. And maybe that was the point. The editing, the music, the pacing all pointed to something deeper than a tour film. It felt like a documentary of healing, a love letter to the fans who waited, and a confession from someone who rarely lets the world see him break. The cheers that made him cry weren't just applause. They were reminders, affirmations, proof that the connection between Jin and ARMY didn't fade with time. It grew stronger, louder, more meaningful than ever. As the trailer ended with the echo of the crowd chanting his name, the screen faded to a final message, coming soon. But the emotion stayed. The tears stayed. The question stayed. What will the full movie reveal? What moments are still hidden behind the curtain? What stories has he yet to tell? And most importantly, why did it take only one moment of audience cheers to bring Jin to tears? Whatever the truth is, ARMY will be there when the full story unfolds, ready to cry, celebrate, and stand by him through every scene, every song, every confession. If you want updates the moment new footage drops, remember to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe. Because this film may reveal more about Jin's heart than anyone is prepared for. Why did Jin break down in tears after hearing the thunderous cheers in the official trailer of Run Seokjin EP, Tour the Movie? What happened behind the scenes that made this moment so emotional? ARMY, before we uncover the full story, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any updates on this unfolding journey.